Welcome everyone. The topic for this video is motivational and influencing capacity. Essentially speaking, a person who has inspirational capacity or probably a person who can influence onto others. We are talking somebody called leader. So essentially we'll talk about the characteristics of leaders in this particular presentation. Remember, we are talking only about the successful leaders hereby. So let us understand what will be covered in this presentation. We'll discuss about motivation. We'll define motivation. We'll understand between the fine differences that exist between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. How does motivation help in our learning process? And probably as a leader, what can be done to build up intrinsic motivation all together? So let us proceed. Definition. Motivation is an internal state or condition, sometimes described as a need, desire, or want that serves to activate or energize behaviors and give it a direction. Essentially, this is what we are talking about motivation is. Remember, it is an internal state. Somebody might contest the fact that is motivation can be an extrinsically based on an external environment, external aspirations as such, the drive, the need, but essentially what we call about an intrinsic condition, it is your innate nature as to require or search for certain goals or requirements, wants per se. So that is the reason where motivation is supposedly an internal state of affairs altogether. So, what is motivation? Motivation is something which activates you in terms of getting things done altogether. It is the start process, and probably it is the only thing that keeps you on track as to keep on going on the right path. Why? Because you want to achieve an overall objective. Now that is what it guides to be determined. Where are you going over a period of time, over a longish period of time? So motivation is not the journey itself probably, but yes, it is to the journey towards the desired goal that one individual aspires eventually. So motivation gets activated, needs to be maintained and probably guided through in case people lose motivation because either the goal seems too distant or the amount of effort that has been put is too immense altogether. So these are the reason where people might get demotivated, and that is the reason where you need a proper guidance, a proper sequencing. Therefore, so let us understand motivation results. Now, motivation is all about your conscious and an unconscious factor, such as the intensity of desire or need, the fact that you want something desperately. The question is, how desperate are you? The incentive or reward value of the goal, the ascribed value of the goal that we are talking about here. Do you value the objective, reaching end objective, or the value that the objective has been ascribed in the eyes of your followers per se? So the incentive or the reward value can be completely different than the desired or the goal per se. And last but not the least is the expectation of the individual of his or her peers thereby. This is what we need to understand as to what exactly is motivations all about it. Psychology has identified two basic classification of motivations. One which is internal, which is intrinsic in nature, and the other one which is external, which is extrinsic in nature. So motivation, the locus of control in this case is within an individual or outside an individual. When you put the locus of control outside an individual, it becomes extrinsic in nature, as has been shown by this particular pic, where it shows a fish wants to move from a smaller jar to a bigger jar, probably getting for a higher playing field altogether for itself. And that is what an extrinsic motivation is all about it. The intrinsic motivation is you want to live it the way you have to go around it. The fish will be very successfully alive even in the smaller jar, but the external motivating factor is what it determines the psychology part of it, and that is what motivation is all about it. We'll talk about extrinsic motivation. Remember, it is a motivations to perform and succeed for the sake of accomplishing a particular result, a particular outcome. Most importantly, the locus of control is outside the individual. The individual wants to applauds, to get some glories from for himself or herself. External motivation comes from influence outside the individual, as I have already notified to you. Common intrinsic motivators are rewards and threat of punishment, as the case might be. This is what we are talking out here. Let us understand why a particular employee or a learner would may have been enticed or prodded upon it. This is what we are talking about. May process information only superficially or are interested in performing only easy tasks, meeting minimal classroom requirement. However, extrinsic motivation is equally necessary, as the case might be. Intrinsic motivation arises from a desire to learn a topic due to its inherent interest for self fulfillment, enjoyment, and to achieve a mastery over the subject. As a result, we want to go across it. Remember, it exists within an individual rather than relying on an external pressure, for the desire, for the rewards that we want to cross about it. Intrinsic motivation is all about the individual. It is all about self fulfillment. It is all about enjoying or achieving a sense of contentment as such. Thus, intrinsic motivation learners is where we need to understand the they would love to tackle an assignment willingly or are eager to learn the classroom material, more likely to process information in much more effective ways, as it is, let's say, by engaging meaningful dialogue, more likely to achieve at a high level, as the case might be. This is what is intrinsic motivation, thereby goal orientation, performance goal. Students or probably employees are motivated by the desire to gain recognition, and this is what we are looking forward to it from others, to earn good grades. It is all about basking in the glory. A performance goal is I want to get into that A category of employees in this particular subject, in this particular vertical, in this particular scale. Learning goals are motivated, the employees are motivated by the desire of knowledge acquisition and self improvement. A learning goal is I want to master this subject, as the case might be, all about it. This is what we look into it. So, how motivation affects learning and behavior? Please understand how motivation affects learning and behavior in the process. Motivations direct behavior towards particular goal. Now you are become very pertinent, you are become very focused. It is all that social cognitive theory says or proposes. The individuals set goals for themselves and direct their behaviors accordingly, so that they are able to achieve the goal within the specific scope that they have given themselves to it. So motivation determines the specific goals toward which a employee strives altogether. Does it affect the choice that the employees make as a result? Now, this is what we are looking towards to. Remember, motivation directs a behavior towards a particular goal, no matter based on your intrinsic motivation, based on your extrinsic motivation, the thing that drives you for your needs and wants. You will then manifest behaviors, you will then display behavior so as to achieve the goals at the shortest period of time, and that exactly is all about motivation. Motivation leads to an increase in efforts and energy. You put in your effort, you put in your time, you put in your resources, thereby to attain what? The goal that you have set for yourself. It increases the amount of involvement in achieving the goals directly, which satisfy their needs and their requirement. It determines whether they pursue a task enthusiastically and wholeheartedly, or apathetically and lackadaisically, as has been stated around it. Motivation, remember, increases initiations, as the case might be, all about it. We need to understand as the process that comes around, they are also more likely to continue working in it. Until they have done so, how will they come across with it? Even if they are occasionally interrupted or frustrated in the process. In general, motivation increases employees' time on task and important factors affecting their learning and achievement, as the cases might be. This is what we are looking forward to all the way, everywhere it is said and done. Remember, motivations actually increases the engagement and persistence in the activities. This increase in engagement is directed toward the achievement of the goals. Remember, it is all a cognitive process as far as motivation is concerned. It is in your mind, it is in your brain that you want to pay attention. You want to learn certain thing. You want to pick up the tricks all together every now and then. For instance, a motivated learners would often make a concerted effort to truly understand the classroom material, to learn it meaningfully, and consider how they might actually utilize it in the future, in their discourse, in future, in their endeavors. How will they employ those skills and the knowledge which they have learned it theoretically? How will they make it possible and practical utilization thereby? Motivation determines which consequences are reinforcing, are punishing per se. The more the learners are motivated to achieve an academic success, the more they will be proud of an A or upset with a low grade. So if I have an affinity for a higher grade as a performer, as a learner, as an employee, and if I do not get the desired grade, probably if I get less grade, I as a person, I as a learner, as an employee, will be outrightly devastated. Why? Because of my own set of goals that I've put forward into my mind. And this will determine the consequences of reinforcing and punishing. Probably I will strive more hard. Probably I'll try to harm myself as to punish myself for the fact that I've not been able to achieve the desired goal that I've set forward to. The more learner wants to be accepted and respected by peers, the more they will value membership and the end group. Be distressed by the ridicule of the classmate. Motivation often enhances performances because of the other effect just identify. Goal directed behaviors, efforts and energy initiation, persistent cognition processing, and the impact of consequences. Motivation often leads to improved performances. Remember, therefore, an employees who are mostly motivated to learn, to excel in a classroom activities tends to be highest of achiever in real life scenario. That is what I have been stating around it. Motivation often enhances performances, thereby that needs to be understood. Now, how to motivate employee? That is the major question that comes around it. Mind you, the topic we are discussing is motivational and influential capacity. And as a leader, if we cannot motivate our employees, does it make sense? So make the case as real as possible in order to foster intrinsic motivation. Try to create learning activities based on the topic that are to be taught altogether, or should I say teach them what they will actually implement in real life. Learning should be as practical as possible. Help employees find a personal meaning and value in the material. Strategies include using life models, videos, simulators, and so on. This is what it makes sense. It is what the practical utilization of the theoretical aspect. The learners, the employees will make it real. Provide them with choices, provide them with option. This will only increase their motivations when they feel there is some sense of autonomy in the process, as the case might be. You talk about them in the learning process. The motivation declines when the employee have no voice in the class structure. Option can be as simple as letting them pick their lab partners or select from alternative assignment, or as complex as contract teaching, wherein employees can determine their own grading scale, due dates and assignments, thereby We need to understand this, right? Every time we need to go about it, we need to understand about the real time expectations, real time abilities, and real time technicalities that comes around it. When I say technicality, it might be a submission date, you might be a completion dates, it might be your cost escalation that needs to be taken care of. So provide them with a lot of options, and an employee with an options or sense of autonomy creeps in there. With it will come responsibility, and with responsibility, a person who is responsible enough will focus on their own performances. So fine tune the challenge. As a managers, you should always fine tune the challenge. You should challenge your employees so that the objectives are within the scope of their ambit, but probably a little bit tougher on the set. But you should never set goals which is beyond their capabilities, because that objective which is beyond their capabilities is outrightly demotivating. So we are most motivated to learn when the task before us is matched to the level of a skill, not so easy as to be boring, not so hard as to be frustrating, and probably never unattainable. So deliberately fashion the learning exercise so that employees are working at the edge, at the very edge of their ability, their skill level. Scaffolding is one instructional technique where challenge level is gradually raised as employees are capable of completing complex tasks thereby. So this is what we look around it. Encourage employees to beat their personal best. Help employees set achievable goals for themselves. Generate motivation by encouraging employees to compete against themselves. Run through the material once to establish a baseline, then keep a track of how much they improve in terms of speed, accuracy. Each time, avoid creating intense competition among employees per se. This is what we believe is true altogether. Avoid creating intense competition among employees. Seek role models. If employee can identify with role model, they are most likely to see the relevance of their subject matter. If they can see if whatever they do or whatever they practice actually transform a person to be a successful person, much more acceptable and respectable in the society, they would like to mimic it. Obviously, yes. So say, please seek for role models. They can be as many source of role models such as invited guest speakers, fellow employees, and other peers. Employee can learn by watching peer success thereby. That is what is very important per se. Let us have a sense of belonging. Can we do it? A sense of belonging towards the organization, a sense of belonging to their co-workers, the camaraderie that I'm talking of in terms of team building, the loyalty I'm talking of in terms of an organization. People have fundamental need. Remember, we are a social animal. We love to get connected, related to other people. Employee learn when they are engaged, and so on and so forth. Direct instruction of socialization will actually manifest group activity and building appropriate classroom climate. Motivated every student to participate, make them believe that their input is valued. Adapt a supporting style. A supporting teaching style that allows for student autonomy can foster increased student interest, enjoyment, engagement, and performances. Let us talk about supportive teachers' behavior, including listening, giving hints and encouragement, being responsible to the student, questions, and showing empathy for the employees, nurturing self-worth, a sense of competence and an autonomy, as the case might be. We look to adapt to a supportive style of late. A supporting management style will enable the student or the employees to work in tandem with one another. They will increase their interest, the enjoyment, the engagement altogether. We require supportive behaviors. Supportive behaviors are all about listening and giving hints. Supportive behaviors is all about encouragement and be responsive. So that is what we should be looking forward to. The role expectation. This is a huge. Employees will only give you what you expect from them. This is absolutely huge. You will start determining, writing in in big black bold letters of what has been expected. And believe me or not, if you can write it down and ingrain in their minds, employee will deliver you the result. If you expect little, that exactly we will get. Don't be afraid to raise the bar. Instill a sense of belief in an employee that they can learn, the coupled with a high expectation, and you are confident of their abilities thereby. So this is what we are looking forward to. Let us come to the next penultimate slide of this presentation. Is all about failure. At times, in fact many a times, you will not be able to achieve your goals. So how do you deal with failures? Teach employees to concentrate on the task rather than on being distracted by the fear of failure. The concept of fear is the fact that it has not yet happened. So please remove this element of fear from the imagination, from the mind. Why do I call it imagination? Because it has not happened. We are just imagining that we are failing. Failure is a result of lack of information or not using the appropriate problem solving skills, not the lack of ability. Assist employees to retrace their steps to solve their problems so that they won't be frustrated. We'll come to the fag end of this particular presentation with an ARCS model. ARCS, it is all about attention, relevance, confidence, and satisfaction. The model captures the teacher's roles, or should I say the leader's role, all together in totality. The attention is capturing employees' interest and curiosity. You capture their attention. Relevance is meeting the employees' personal requirements, their needs, their goal. Confidence is helping employees believe that they will eventually succeed. So go for their attention, capture their interest, make them relevant to their own goals, own needs, and infuse confidence in them that they sure that they will able to succeed at their endeavor, and with it comes satisfaction, wherein the employees will accomplish through extrinsic or intrinsic reward. With this, I come to an end of this particular presentation on motivational and influential capacity. Remember the thoughts that I've already discussed in this presentation. They are very vital, and if proven, you will be able to implement and become a successful leaders in due course of time. Thank you once again.